Welcome back to another episode of the Vet, the Bet, the Casual. We got my man Siraj here, fresh off of Fight Island 7. That was a beautiful card. We got Fight Island 8 this week on Wednesday, leading up to UFC 257 on Saturday. You must be pumped, my man.
Yeah, it's one of those cards where, I'm kind of like numb when it comes to fights with Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. I've been hyped for those for a long time. When you look at this card from top to bottom, I mean, it sells, man. It sells. For anyone that's paid attention to MMA over the last year, I think it sells itself.
Yeah, great card. A lot of exciting fights coming up. Fight Island 7, that was great to kick off the new year. Watching that card, there's a few things that stood out to me that were pretty funny. One was, seeing our girl Sarah Morris fight. And in that fight, she's one of the few fighters I've heard that, gives that real scream when she punches every time. And it makes it sound like she's landing the shots when she's not. And hearing DC comment on it and compare her to a women's tennis player in the UFC edition, oh my God, that had me on the floor, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things where I'm thinking to myself, when you striking is definitely falling behind, what do you really do in the moment, and it clearly she was trying. And, her coaches were my biggest issue with that fight. I'll be very honest. There's a reason why we didn't. I mean, I'll get into the public place in a quick second here, but there's a reason why we didn't really play that fight. I mean, for me, the coaching really stood out to me. Why in the third round was she really going so hard with the striking game? It was so obvious that she was being outclassed. And if you look at all of the previous fights in her opponent's case, I mean, you had to really kind of dish out the punishment early to maybe tire her out so she slows down with the footwork and the hands, but unfortunately you didn't do that, and you really kind of went into the third round thinking not only did you have a chance. Can we talk about that reaction?
God, that was so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very honest. I'm very impartial when it comes to this sport, unless I really developed that kind of connection with the fight. I mean, I love the fight game a little too much. It is what it is, but in that case, when I saw her reaction, to me that was oh my God. I mean, you really do kind of have to rewatch that fight and take something in and see what that was not Max Holloway Volkanovski too. Let me tell you that.
Absolutely. I mean, at best, I thought she might have got a draw. I also thought Carlos Felipe, that one could have been a draw as well, but he actually did get that decision in the end. And yeah, there was a lot of close fights. I mean, you mentioned public plays, and we did all right, but the boy Joaquin Buckley really let us down there. DiChirico looked amazing, and that was a great knockout. And you even sent me some funny stuff from Kevin Holland after with him. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, Bucko, baby.
Looks like Buckley has a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, so Bucko with the beautiful titties, looks beautiful all the time. But it's so funny. But I sent you a few text messages before, and I was talking to my brother while I was watching the fights. I had the devil inside me, just kind of yelling these little things. And the first two ones, was DiChirico. Maybe we kind of look at this. If you look at his record, there really was at least the assumption that, a veteran might be able to do some damage. And frankly, not that you can have that lean going into the fight, as a reasonable doubt kind of thing, but more so, he proved that point pretty well. And he had a fairly interesting statement with the end of the fight press conference. I mean, can we talk about Dana White and just how beautiful he is as a human being? That reaction to his reaction, I mean, I'm going to try my best to get that to play right now, but I mean...
I just found out that kid was mad. Did you guys talk to him?
He didn't talk to us. He said that because we don't interview losers, we only interview the winners. So he's like, we should be interviewing.
I just heard that. It's the craziest shit I ever heard. I saw him in the back, and I walked by him and his team. I was like, hey, congratulations. And they looked at me like, the fuck you want? Seriously, they literally looked at me like they lost. And I looked at Brian and said, man, that's an unhappy crew, huh? What the hell's wrong with them? Apparently they didn't know they won.
Dang.
Yeah. That's
just
how beautiful is that?
I mean, the dude is a beauty. It's great to see what he's doing in the scene and bringing up all these crazy mans, and yet still having that such respect for his vets in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing with him is the fight's the fight, as Anderson Silva so eloquently put. I think with Dana, just for me, it's the reaction to things. I think for him in that moment, he's just the perfect man to pitch this sport, and I'm happy to watch the ride that is Dana White. He's a beautiful guy.
Yeah, straight up, man. What he's doing for that sport and the entertainment value he provides is unreal. So yeah, we got Fight Island 8 on Wednesday night. That's going to be a great one. And, we're going to be previewing UFC 257 today. Anything else you want to touch on before we jump into this exciting card?
The only thing is I think we're both going to have a bit more onus when it comes to the picks moving forward. I think we started off the year a little bit, so on such a high note with just the videos and all that beautiful stuff. But I think that aspect of things, with the Max Holloway minus 188 closing line, I mean, for even maybe throwing up a live bet for everyone just to kind of dabble. I mean, that was just how I can't describe to you what was happening to me in that moment during that fight, but that was a very perfect experience. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that's great to hear. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen myself. These dudes just went ham for 5 rounds. It was entertaining as hell. So, let's dive right into UFC 256. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. Our information is below: Instagram, Twitter. Give us a follow, and let's jump right into it. So, kicking us off, we have a nice flyweight bout here between two ranked fighters here. It's pretty crazy to see how high their Tapology rankings are, given how fresh they are in the UFC game. But we do have Amir Albazi here. He's taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Really cool name. So,
can you tell that this man has had to say that name before, though? Can you tell that man has had to say that name before? Come on now. Let's rewind a few cards. This man is just rolling off the tongue with them. Get out of here. My God. Standing in front of the mirror before we start recording. Zhumagulov, don't fuck that up.
No, this one was easy. There's some few ones that come up in this card that I definitely had to do that for.
Let's roll, baby.
So, we were supposed to see this fight back in November, but it was canceled prior to the event. Both guys, they come in with similar records. We got 13-1 for Albazi. We got 13-4 for Zhumagulov. So, very similar in records. Albazi, he made his UFC debut back in July, I believe, where he did the triangle choke to Malcolm Gordon in the first round. So that was very impressive. Obviously, what's notable for us is that his lone loss in his fighting career came to our boy Shorty Torres, which we actually just had the pleasure of interviewing. If you haven't checked that out, full video is up on YouTube there, so give that a look. But that was great, and it's crazy to see that his only loss was to our boy there. So he's going to be looking to make a real name for himself in the UFC here. Zhumagulov, similar story. He made his UFC debut back in July. He did fall short to Raulian Palva, I believe, in unanimous decision. He does have a few notable wins in the Fight Nights Global, including a victory against Tyson Nam, which we'll see on Wednesday. So, this one's going to be a close one. Do you see any sort of edge here, or what do you see here, man?
Well, it's funny. I kind of want to broaden this topic a little bit because since you and I have started doing this, let's have a quick chat, right? The flyweight division all of a sudden has just bloomed into this beautiful flower that's just blooming along with us. We have to accept that this is kind of something that we're riding with the tide, if you will. We saw Davison Figueiredo, have his run in the UFC, and hold and behold, we sit down with Jose Shorty Torres, who's kind of chasing that double champ dream in Brave right now. So, funny enough, you mentioned that the fight with Amir Albazi. Yeah, I mean that was a pretty handy decision for Jose, and I think we saw him come back with a win against Ryan Curtis. But at the end of the day, we have to look at the Malcolm Gordon fight. We talked about that. We analyzed that one to absolute perfection. We actually thought that Malcolm Gordon would try his best to stand on to run the stand-up game, but I think in all facets of the game, Albazi was a little bit ahead of him. Wouldn't you say? I think that was kind of the big thing for that fight. I mean, I think Amir would have been able to finish that fight wherever he wanted, to be quite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were definitely rooting on our boy Malcolm Gordon here from Canada, I believe. But Amir was just too much on that day and was able to show the versatility of his game.
That's the thing. The fight is the fight, right? That's all we can keep saying is the fight is the fight. Yeah. So when we look at your boy Zhumagulov, the one thing about him is I feel like when we say small fighters, we're obviously talking about flyweights, right? We know what we're getting into, but a part of me thinks he kind of fights a little small too. He's 5'4". He like a 5'4" Tyson best use his speed and movement as best as he possibly can. You know what I mean? I felt like he holds it close to his chest. He's got some good movement, good kicks, that kind of thing. And he's going to have to use his whole game against Amir Albazi. We've seen him pretty much, try to showcase his whole game. So for me, I think there's going to be a very heavy lean here. I think we've seen what Zhumagulov can do at the UFC level. I don't think it was a bad performance. I just think that the flyweight division is officially, you know, being put in the real realm of things when it comes to MMA in general, especially for the UFC. And right now they're trying their best to build as many, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here, contenders as possible, because frankly, as many as they can build, it's just going to highlight a division that requires more and more. We talked about something very, very specific when it comes to the flyweight division, right? Rankings. You just brought up how on Tapology, we've got Albazi Zumagulov sitting at 16 and 17, right? So when you look at that, and Jose Torres, by the way, is sitting at 21. So there's for me, there's definitely some things that at the end of the day, the UFC is your Walmart, right? Like that is your big, your one-stop shop, your everyone's watching type of thing. So at the end of the day, it's going to dictate rankings for sure. But like we talked about on the show there, the rankings in that division are going to start really, you know, hashing itself out, I think, over the next year or so, especially on a global level, because we're going to start seeing these fighters kind of come up now. The divisions are getting popular. The fights are getting popular. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you said it best, and over the next year, it's really going to figure itself out. So, you know, I'm excited about this one. It's going to be a good one. What do you have in terms of a line projection here?
Yeah, so like let's just kick it off right now by kind of touching on the point that I left off with Amir Albazi looking to be the favorite here. I think he's been able to showcase different facets of his game. I think in this case, you know, when you look at the direct comparison, I think the slight height and reach and the way he fights you, it's going to make him the longer fighter. That's the part I really like about him. You know, Zumagulov likes to land. He's going to land strikes, you know what I mean? But I think the defense of Amir Albazi and the overall game is going to be the final straw. So let's go with Amir Albazi at a minus one. Yo, your reaction right there changed my mind so quickly there, man.
No, don't go by that at all, yeah. I'm just
all right, sick. Okay, original. Minus 280 Amir Albazi.
So it's funny, even when I was analyzing the fights, I expected, you know, Albazi to be a favorite or a pretty big favorite, actually. And that's kind of why I've been holding back my smile here, is that I myself was shocked. So I can only imagine how shocked you will be. But Zumagulov is actually the favorite here. It's not by much, but he is a minus 125 favorite. And I was actually surprised to see that Amir Albazi was not the favorite in general.
Yeah, so I should have gone the other way, asshole. No, I'm just kidding. So my big thing there is, you know, we talked about how this division is trying to hash itself out. You know, the rankings, if there's so many discrepancies in the rankings, like the lines themselves are going to be hard to call. You know, like we talked about with Torres, the fact of the matter is he was able to deal with Amir Albazi pretty handedly over in Brave. So, you know, he's now coming over to a man who's now got some UFC experience under his belt, and his highlight reel is for real. Like he's taken on some of the better Russian fighters that we've seen at the flyweight level in the UFC over his career out in Russia. So, you know, he might be getting a lot of bump in that regard too. His fight style is it's not like he's not a great fighter, man. The real thing is about mixing it up in his fight. I think speed and endurance, like true flyweight capability, is going to be what kind of dictates the pace here. And if he's able to land the big shots and kind of getting close, I think wrestling and being on top is going to be his play. I really think if he's able to, because I mean, they both like to run the takedowns. I think there's enough. I mean, a combined almost 5 per fight. That's a pretty big number for both guys. So I think there's a good chance we're going to see a great mix of things. You know, I think Amir Albazi, man, when you look at the numbers, he's fundamentally the better fighter. I think we might see an upset there.
At plus 100, you know I like those odds. So stay tuned for that one, but it's going to be a close one. All right, and so then up next, we have a featherweight bout coming up between Nick Lentz and our boy Evlov here. Nick Lentz, we've supposed to see him, I think, 3 times now. We were supposed to see him against Mike Grundy on last weekend, Fight Island 7. That one got canceled, and so Nick Lentz is now taking on Evlov here. Seems like Evlov's willing to step in at any time, and nobody really wants to fight the man, so... Nick Lentz has stepped up. You know, he's been around the block. We mentioned this last time, but you know, he's been in the UFC since 2009, and he's been fighting consistently then. 2 of his notable losses come at the hands of your boy Charles Oliveira in that submission game, and most recently he lost to Arnold Allen by decision in February of last year. So, you know, Evlov, what can we say about this kid, man? He's 13-0 record. He's willing to take whatever fight that comes in his way, and he just deals with whoever's in his path. So he made his UFC back in 2019. He's 3-0 since then. He actually beat Mike Grundy back in July, who Nick Lentz was supposed to be fighting last weekend. So not much I can say about this guy other than he's a beast. How do you see this one unfolding?
Yeah, so like the weird thing here is it's a classic triangle case, right? Like if you look at Evlov's last fight, who did he fight? Mike Grundy. And so the big thing for me is like, I really liked what I saw from him, especially late in the fight. Grundy was able to land 6 takedowns. And so if there is something for, Nick Lentz, the very, very big veteran in the UFC, to kind of take note of, is Evlov is a little bit susceptible to those takedowns. So if Nick Lentz can handle that striking, which is proving to be absolutely gorgeous to watch, he might be able to kind of sneak something in. What's funny to me about this fight, if you think back to the Mike Grundy fight that we were supposed to see, he might have been the heaviest favored dog going into the card. Mike Grundy was the favorite, but if you look at probably anyone that was picking the fights, they were all willing to ride the juice on Nick Lentz. Unfortunately, that fight didn't transpire. Maybe our boy Solomon Grundy got whiff of that. But the big thing for me is like, I love the all-around ability, right, of Evlov. He can land 3 takedowns. He does that per fight. So I think 68% takedown defense. If he wants to keep the fight standing, especially late if Nick Lentz is taking too much damage, that's going to be a big thing for him. We've seen him fight in the 3rd round. He looks fucking beautiful. Like, I don't think we're going to see any issues there. I think that's the best part about Evlov's game, is that he's able to kind of keep that beautiful pressure striking going all fight. And what do we know about those beautiful pressure strikers, my man? Whew, are they not beautiful to watch? And also championship caliber fighters if their MMA game is sound. And I think that's where we're going to see kind of Evlov now finally take on maybe a much bigger name to the hardcore / older, long time type of UFC fans when they see Nick Lentz. That's a huge step in competition. Yep.
Yeah, you said it best. Someone's been around the game for a long time. This is where Evlov has to prove himself. So, let's dive it right into those lines there. Where do you see the Vegas odds favoring here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's weird, right? Because like there doesn't seem to be too much of a height difference. I do like the reach and the length that Evlov fights with. It's just he lands at a much better rate, and I think in terms of like defending the strikes and everything, he just really does have what it takes to kind of move into the ranks and see what he does against much tougher fighters. I think if he's able to finish here in a big way, he might get that top 10, 15 type of fighter. But like the big thing for me is we watched him kind of dominate a tired Grundy in the 3rd round, and despite some chances and things like that, that was a hard fight for him to finish, right? So that's the part for me where I'm kind of tippy-toeing. Like, do we have any I'm sure for this card we must have some beautiful lines to kind of check out as we go here.
They've actually not posted them, the method of victories and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming it's because the lines are fluctuating so much. Case in point in this one. So let's see if you can nail that opening line.
Yeah, I mean, let's actually dive right into it, because I'm even looking at Nick Lentz's like last 3 fights on his record, and in terms of like top quality guys that I can see Evlov having good fights with, like David Tamor. That's a great example. 2018, that's a tough loss, and David Tamor's a tough guy, especially at that point. Like that was a good run for him, and in this case, like I think Evlov's going to bring something very similar. Maybe a little bit more patient and a little bit more technical with that striking. I think, and overall MMA game, like David Tamor's a great kickboxer, but I think Evlov has that like real scary, like total defensive package to continuously use his striking, which is what's making some of these deadly strikers what Dana White, Sean Shelby, all these guys want to see, right? And so let's dive right into that line. I'm gonna go with for how much hype is on this man, I have to go with something like minus 290.
Oh man, even that you kind of shot short, which is nuts. But he opened at a minus 400 favorite. This morning when I looked, it was minus 415. Right now when I look, it's minus 450.
And there's no chance of a finish there.
No, there's no lines for that yet. But Lentz is a plus 350 right now.
And what's funny, guys, is like now I'm starting to question. It's like, why do you do this to me when it comes to Vegas? At the end of the day, it's like you had me at Grundy looking at that fight. Look, Lentz is a little bit more competitive there. But now you're throwing me numbers like that, and I'm like, well, I love this Evloev kid as a prospect, you know? How much have I talked about Monster Evloev in cards where he's not even fighting anymore? Like, I'm still talking about him. So it's like one of those things where, I mean, I hope Nick Lentz makes it because nine canceled bouts, I think, since 2019, if I'm right. Let me just quickly double check my numbers here. Sorry, it's 6 canceled bouts since August 2019. And that's still quite a bit in, less than a 2-year span. So for me, that's a big question mark when it comes to just, people either falling through or even him maybe. But I honestly think like this is a big fight and good on Evloev for getting at least a nice little veteran out of it all. I think that's huge.
Yeah, that value is insane, especially someone who basically has taken this fight on short notice, given the fact that Lance Grundy was supposed to be last.
So yeah, like the big thing for me is like if we haven't noticed, Pies, everybody stays ready now, right? Everyone thinks they're gonna get a call. You have Max Holloway being like, hey, anything happens in the sport, anything happens. You guys want the call? I'm gonna get the call. That's a terrible Max Holloway story. I'll work on that. That was the first time I ever tried. I swear. I'm pretty good with impressions, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it best, right? Even the moment he finished, he was like, if someone drops out next Saturday, give me a shout. I'll take that shit for sure. So Evloev, I'm sure, is ready. Lentz has obviously been ready for a long time, given all his canceled bouts, and it should be a good one, man. I'm curious to see if Lentz can hang with the prospect here.
Oh, yeah, man. Like, I mean, if you look at the last 2 fights we just talked about, like, this card is freaking stacked.
All right, and so up next, we got a middleweight bout. On one hand, we got Andrew El Dirte Sanchez. Very interesting nickname this man chose to rock here. And he's taking on Mahmoud Muradov. So this was going to be a good one. Sanchez, he comes in at 32 years old. He's sporting that 12-5 record. He's actually been in the UFC since 2016 after winning his tough finale against Khalil Roundtree, who we'll see later on the card today. But he has gone 4-3 in the UFC. He lost to Marvin Vettori late in 2019, which we've seen his rise since then. And, Andrew was able to bounce back in 2020 with a win against Wellington Turman. On the flip side, we got Mahmoud here, who rocks that 24-6 record. 2020 was the year of cancellations for this man. I'm pretty sure he had 4 or 5 fights canceled. We were supposed to see him against Antonio Carlos Jr., who's on this card as well. Carl Robertson, our boy Kevin Holland. Just wasn't in the cards for this guy. So, he will be taking on Andrew Sanchez next Saturday. I can only imagine the excitement this guy has to get back in the ring. He's gone 2-0 in the UFC since he's entered the league. So he does have wins against Trevor Smith and Alessio Di Chirico, who we saw this past weekend put on quite the display against Joaquin Buckley. This is going to be a good one, man.
Yeah, so, there's a couple things that are like huge flags for me in this fight. We'll get into that. But, this is your classic case of wrestler versus striker, in my opinion, at least in terms of like strengths. I think Muradov is someone, like you said, anticipation is a big thing in MMA, right? Like when you don't get to see someone like, who's not crossing their fingers right now that, young blood Nurmagomedov doesn't fall out of that fight for some unknown reason. Like we got to make sure that he gets there safely. Like we got to put him in a bubble boy suit or whatever it is. Just like get him there. Like I'm good with it. With this fight, here's the thing. I like the grappling from both sides, but everyone knows that Andrew Sanchez is the wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, he really does chase that. I think he does love to strike, but that's the big thing about him, right? Like he's one of those guys that's still entertained. His fights are exciting. He's making a big comeback. But unfortunately, you named some guys that, are big red flags, right? Anthony Smith, Marvin Vettori. These are all really, really good strikers for the middleweight division, right? Let's go even further back in his career. You got guys like Kevin Casey, Dustin Jacoby. These are all strikers. Like these are basically kickboxers that are really, really good in the MMA game, right? So that's a big red flag, right? When you look at Muradov's skills and you look at this is the big thing I wanted to point out here. Look at the names that you named that Muradov was supposed to fight. We got Antonio Carlos Jr., Carl Robertson, Christoph Jotko, Kevin Holland. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, man. These are all ranked Jotko these are all ranked fighters to me, and Antonio Carlos Jr. is a tough winner. So for me, not that Andrew Sanchez isn't like not part of that group, but I just think like if you look at the quality of fighter right now that he was supposed to fight all those times, I'm sorry to say, like this is I'm not trying to downplay Sanchez because I'm actually a big fan. It's one of those things where I just think that for a comeback fight, there's a huge difference in anticipation and comeback, right? So I think like you got Sanchez in the comeback fight and you got Muradov in that, highly anticipated type of fight. And right now, I gotta say, I'm leaning with the anticipation.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive right into the line here. Let's see if we can get you a bell right here. Who do you see as the favorite and by how much?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I'm really liking the defensive and overall like offensive skill from Muradov's side. Like he's able to get the takedowns if he needs to, and he definitely likes to strike. I mean, his defense is definitely better. He absorbs way less strikes than Sanchez. And I'll tell you right now, go watch any tape of Sanchez. The man likes to do things that are fun for us, but not so smart for him, you know? And as much as I enjoy that, it's
a good way of putting it. It's a good way of putting it.
It's my least favorite thing of fighters. I was actually making a comment, right? At what point in this sport do you get to the level where it's like, hey, Calvin Kattar, I love you to death. Like, I want to see you fight sooner. I think you want to fight sooner than maybe lasting those 5 rounds. You know, it's beautiful for us to watch. And I'm sure you're loving every minute of it in some sick, twisted way that I totally understand. I get it. But at the end of the day, you know, the pain is great in the moment, but you have to recover to get that next fight. You have to recover to go through training camp. The more shit and beatings you take, the harder it's going to be, right? So that's where, for me, I realized that, you know, as a big fan of what we watched, at the end of the day, there could be an era where we're like, you know what, throw the towel in, because frankly, this is a pretty, you know, deadly sport in the grand scheme of things. And if you ain't about it, you ain't about it, right? Like, I just think that at some point you might have to do that. And no coach will make that decision for his fighter, I think, which is kind of anyway, we're going off topic here, but let's move on.
All right, so hit me with the line here.
Let's go with Muradov at, you know what, Andrew Sanchez, respect on the name. I'm going to go with Muradov at -140.
Oh, baby, give me that bell, yo. Give me that bell. Let's go, yo. For some reason, I thought you were going to hit me with a sky-high number on Muradov, so that was right on point. He's a -135 opener. When I look live, he's even creeping closer to Siraj at a -138. You know, so
I like how he put that. That's like, start quoting that line. That's a great line, my boy.
Man, so do you see value here? I mean, you know me, right? Anything under -150, I'll take straight up if I can.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of agree with you in this case, right? Like I said, for me, Muradov, again, I think the lack of activity is a big issue, but these are pretty solid names, man. I really think like these are the guys that you want to be fighting, you know, heading into your UFC event. The big problem is like it's not the opponent kind of backing out of fights, right? So in terms of just overall commitment to the game and things like that, there's reasons to kind of just, you know, what's funny, man, is even looking at the last card and just lines alone, there's a lot of things that were skeptical for me. Max Holloway at -188 was always just such a sick and twisted, and we just saw him perform at a -600. It was just a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But it was beautiful. I can't stop thinking about it. My fucking God. Anyway, it's hard to get it out of my brain. I really, it's constantly playing. But I just think that, yes, the answer to your question is yes, but you know what, man? In the MMA, you know, I guess diehard, Andrew Sanchez is an absolute tank, man. Like, he loves the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the third round, if Muradov, a guy who, you know, seems to withdraw from fights and hasn't fought in over a year, wants to get into a brawl with a guy who seems to just kind of want to take a beating for a really long time for no goddamn reason. I mean, yeah, like this is maybe something he can sneak in. I just think that if the power comes into play, things like that, if let's be honest here, if Sanchez isn't smart early on, I think some punches can land.
All right, so stay tuned for that one. We'll probably be posting something a little closer to Saturday for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so on deck is about from, you know, my favorite division here. I'm loving this division as I get closer and closer and more into it. It's the best, yo. They're just athletic fucking heavyweights, man. It's so good. But here we got the Warhorse and Khalil Roundtree. Why are you laughing at me, man?
It's good. It's so funny. I just love that like that's where your heart seems to like. You know, you play into that beautifully, because I think even when we used to watch fights back in the day, it was like definitely the big boys, and everybody seemed to love it. And the big boys back then were really solid. But you found a way to still keep that love going. Meanwhile, here I'm falling in love with like 5'6", 5'7", like 125-pound men. Maybe that's why I'm working out 6 times a day now. Who knows? Fuck.
You know, it's just that in the heavyweights, you either get like the best of the best, or you can get a really underwhelming fight because dudes aren't in shape.
Yeah,
I feel like that just doesn't happen in this division. It's like heavyweights that are just chiseled, man. It's a great division.
Well, I think it depends on the guys that you choose to kind of talk about, right? Because like, you know, I think Felipe and Tafa are great examples of guys that at 6 feet, they kind of, I don't want to say they wear the weight well, but they make 265 look kind of small, wouldn't you say, at 6 feet?
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
They're pretty much it. Yeah, like it's actually.
And I'm pretty sure I heard Cormier refer to Felipe as a sexy beast at some point during that fight too.
God, how I feel about that guy. That guy's too much for me. So
here we got Khalil Roundtree taking on Marcin Prachnio. Roundtree, you know, he comes in with the 8-4 record. He's been in the UFC since 2016, so he's been around for a while. He was in Ultimate Fighter season 23. He's 4-3 in the UFC. We were supposed to see him fight Sam Alvey in 2020. That didn't happen. But in 2019, he did beat Eric Anders before losing to our boy Cutabella in the first round by elbows. So, you know, looking forward to seeing him bounce back. Marcin, on the flip side, he has that 13-5 record. The UFC, though, has not been kind to this man. He's made his debut in 2018. He's gone 0-3 since. He has losses to Sam Alvey, Ankalev, and Mike Rodriguez back in August. So this is going to be a big one for him. I think he really needs to come up with a strong showing here.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost make the argument. I feel like both of them kind of really do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think from like the UFC is doing a really big job of trying to kind of, you know, cut down the roster in some ways. And I do believe when you look at Khalil Roundtree, I feel like he's a guy that fights way more than he actually does. You know, I feel like I maybe he haunts me in my dreams. I'm not sure. But the fact that even that Cutelaba fight was back in 2019, I mean, the two things about his losses, right? They're devastating first round losses against two guys who kind of made very, very minimal come ups after fighting him, and then took on, you know, fairly better competition, and, you know, didn't it fell off. Like, let's be honest here. Like two guys who had a lot of promise. Cutelaba showing up like the Hulk in all of his little weigh-ins. Like, all those things were prized to be big movements for them. You know, the big thing about that I loved about the Cutelaba fight is you expected things to be good for him after fighting Glover, right? Fighting Glover Teixeira and coming up short, obviously, against what we could call a potential champion at one point in his career. If not, you know, what he looks like now, he could even be a potential champion. But to beat Khalil Roundtree, then to lose to Ankalev twice, obviously the fake one, right? So like that,
I remember that now.
Yeah, so like the thing for me, it's like the fighters we're dealing with right now, like I'm going to tell you, Pies, from a betting perspective, I have to tell you, this is advice as a friend, as a colleague, as a brother. Like, hey, you know, it's just not, who knows, bro. Take an under and have fun with it.
Oh, man, you might feel that way even more after you see the line. So anything else you want to touch on before we jump into the Vegas odds?
It's so funny, but you're gonna laugh, and I'm almost willingly. We'll get into it. Yeah, do you want to do a little? And here we go for Pies' lines. I'm gonna tell you that I honestly believe that even if Vegas doesn't agree, like I have to say that Vegas should just make this a pick 'em and let whoever wins win. So pick 'em. It's a pick 'em.
Oh, man. Your boy Roundtree here is a minus 335 favorite.
Wow. Okay. Yo, honestly, homie, yes, this man has been devastatedly rocked 3 times since 2018. I will say that at the end of the day, the juice on that is pretty substantial because you're telling, like, let's look at lines accordingly. Like, if that's what Roundtree is ranked at that level, I mean, bro, there's some things for us to look into regarding this fight when it comes down to just what Pies likes to call Pies is, you know, Pies is Pies.
Man, I gotta say, given what you're telling me here, Marcin to finish has to be just stupendous odds, man.
just for the hell of it, right? I mean, and at the end of the day,
sure.
I'm telling you right now, for me, the under is hella juicy. What could be definitely hella, like, leaning those odds is even if you look at the Topology rankings for both fighters, one guy's coming in at 23. He's been in the UFC for most of his career, obviously losing to pretty good fighters. And Marston's coming in at 86. Like, that's pretty substantial for a light heavyweight division. So, I mean, with an aging group and Khalil Rountree potentially, according to Vegas, making a nice little comeback here, it's going to be interesting to see where this all lands. But you can bet your bottom dollar that nothing substantial is leaving my pocket for anything around this. But an under. I do like an under.
Unless the under.
Yes, I do like an under in this. I do love
That's
the
good
under.
advice, brother. That's good advice. Of course, man. Of course.
Yeah. So he'll just lay the under and make some popcorn and
Enjoy my division,
enjoy his division. Wow, let's do it. Maybe that's a t-shirt to make right there. Just Pies' picture, UFC logo, the light heavyweight champ right here. This is the light heavyweight champ. Let's get it. I'm actually more excited for the next fight. Let's get into that, my man.
All right, let's dive right into it, man. We got a women's bantamweight division fight. A couple of vets here in Sarah McMahon and Juliana Pena. We've actually seen her fight in 2020, so looking forward to seeing her get back in the ring. McMahon, she sports a 12-5 record. She's been in the UFC since 2012, which is just insane. Dating back to a little bit of her history, she actually represented America in the Olympics, which is actually really dope in 2004. So, she's been around the game for a long time. We know she can compete with the best of them. She has notable wins against Gina Mazzani, Lauren Murphy. She also has some tough losses against some really elite people, Ronda Rousey in her prime, Amanda Nunes, Ketlin Vieira. So, she knows what it takes to win here. Most recently, she beat Lena Landsberg back in January of last year by decision. So, looking forward to seeing her get back in the ring. On the flip side, we got the Venezuelan Vixen here. She rocks that 9-4 record. She's actually 8-2 dating back to 2013, which is pretty crazy. And her only losses have been to Valentina Shevchenko, who's an absolute beast, and to Jermaine de Randiem. So, and that was in October. How do you say it? 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 This guy just left.
I've watched this man say Kazakhstan names, Russian names, German names. Woo! This guy comes off a Dutch. This guy grabs a Dutch name and just gets rocked.
Randim? How do you say this?
Jermaine de Randemy.
Randemy?
Yeah,
all right.
You got it. Woo! That one got me good.
That was her
That one got me so good. Woo! That got me so good. Wow.
Well, that was her most recent loss. And this one should be a dandy. So what do you got here, man?
All right. So what's really funny about this one is I'm actually going to play a reverse game on Pies because Pies knows the lines. And I keep catching these random things at the corner of my eye that make these women so similar in terms of fight game that I can't help but have to spit this at you and you can judge how the line looks to you. So you already know how their records look. I mean, their average fight time, 10 minutes, 59 seconds for Pena, 10 minutes, 12 seconds for McMahon. When you look at height, 5'6", 5'6". When you look at weight, if I have to mention weight, is fairly similar. I mean, we're done. I mean, reach 3 inches in favor of Pena. I mean, to be honest with you, I think McCann's going to be a bit more, pushing in anyways, but Pena's going to have a little bit of that advantage, but I don't think it's going to do much in terms of keeping McMahon at bay. When you look at the strikes landed per minute, 2.8 for Juliana Pena, 2.39 for McMahon. Striking accuracy, this is what makes me laugh. 47% for Pena, McMahon 46%. Like, you can't get closer. Wow. Strikes absorbed per minute, 1.73 for Pena, 1.86 for McMahon. And the defense, 51% for Pena, 47% for McMahon. Like, these girls are definitely very well matched. But then this is what I kind of brought up, right? We talk about McMahon's history when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to MMA grappling, like what she's been able to showcase against really good fighters. We're now going to look at the takedowns, right? You have 4.5 takedowns when it comes to per 50 minutes for McMahon. When you look at Pena, only 2.73, right? She obviously doesn't execute so much, but she's also, trying to finish. He's also being able to stand up a bit more. I think Pena tries to explore the game a little bit, whereas McMahon definitely tries to utilize her strengths a lot more. And when you look at this, like takedown defense, 66% for McMahon, only 28% for Juliana Pena. So I really do believe that, you know, with McMahon landing at 63% versus Pena's 51%, I just think that this is one where you have to say that it's going to turn into a grappling match, because I'm very, very skeptical of Pena being able to finish her on the feet. You know, I just think that, you know, if it's a grappling event, she might be able to do something there. But, you know, outside of that, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, so I mean, before we even dive right into the odds here, I'm going to give you a premature bell here, because honestly, your analysis here has kind of dictated the line, and it's right in line with what Vegas is thinking. This is pretty much a pick 'em. Sarah McMahon is a -125 favorite. So let's ring up that bell here. You deserve that one. That was some great analysis there for sure. So yeah, McMahon does come in -125 favorite. It's anybody's fight. Like you said, there might be a little bit of edge in terms of the wrestling and grappling for McMahon, but otherwise, this is going to be a very tough fight to call.
And now we're probably going to talk about some serious content, like beautiful fights.
All right. So, I mean, earlier you asked me which fights I'm most excited about. This is one that actually stood out to me. I don't know a lot about these guys, but when doing my research, I'm like, man, you know, these guys are making a name for themselves, and it's going to be a tight one. So I'm actually really excited for this middleweight bout we got here between Antonio Carlos Jr. and Brad Tavares. So one thing I got to mention, man, anytime I see Antonio Carlos' Tapology picture, man, I feel like he's going to rip through his skin and come through the screen. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Man
this
is a
guy's
monster.
Intensity. So yeah, on one hand, we got Brad Tavares here. You know, he's been in the game since 2010, or sorry, in the UFC game since 2010. He has a 17-6 record. He's been around. We've actually seen him fight on 3 different tough finales. Maybe not his season, but we've seen him fight on 3 different finales. And you know, we were supposed to get this actual fight between Tavares and Carlos Jr. here back in March of 2020, but it didn't happen. You know, Tavares, he's lost 2 in a row here. He lost by head kick to Edmund Shabazian. Edmund Shabazian. Oh, that's a dope name.
Yeah,
so he lost to Shabazian back in 2019. He lost to our main man Israel Adesanya in the Ultimate 27 finale. So, you know, that's obviously a tough fight. But this guy's a beast here, man. And on the flip side, we got Carlos Jr. He has a 10-4 record. He's also been around the UFC for about 10 years. So, you know, these guys, they've seen it all for sure. He sports a 7-4 record in the UFC, which is actually really good as well. He didn't fight in 2020 at all. He had a couple of canceled bouts, and we actually didn't see him last year. And he's coming 2 losses in a row as well. He lost to Uriah Hall and to my boy High Knees here, Ian Heinisch.
Every time.
So, you know, this should be a pretty underrated fight. Like I said at the beginning, man, I have no idea which way this one's going to go.
Well, I got a lot of fun things to talk to you about right now. I really do. So Antonio Carlos Jr. is actually someone who won the heavyweight division tough, I believe, for Brazil on the same one that Warley Alves fought on, who we're actually going to see fight very shortly. So interestingly enough, he actually had such a good run, and then, you know, a lot of canceled bouts, and then the 2 losses kind of threw him off his game. And to be honest, these 2 guys were supposed to fight almost a year ago before the pandemic hit, and then he had another canceled bout before getting this fight in 2021. So, you know, unfortunately for Antonio Carlos Jr., it didn't really work out, but in terms of Brad Tavares, you know, Edmund Shabazian is actually a very, very promising fighter. The Derek Brunson fight, actually, I did bet against him, and he was a massive, massive favorite. It's just funny because that's the perfect example of where the veteran just you have to kind of give him a little bit of bump, right? He's just seen a lot of stuff. And like we fast forward to this, right? I got to tell you something, man. You know, 2021 Pies, if you looked closely at that Israel fight, can you see the date? Do you have it open? If you don't, I can tell you the date.
I believe it was in 2018, but no, I don't have the date.
That's okay. So it's 2018 in July. Do you remember what we were doing 2018 July?
I mean, I'm going to assume we were in Vegas.
Oh, we were in Vegas. Black Beast, my boy. Anyway, so let's get right back to it. Yeah, we were definitely in Vegas, and my boy Pies in 2018 just wasn't the diehard he is today, and unfortunately missed watching Israel go to town in that fight and set up what is currently one of the best title runs we've seen today. So moving forward, I can guarantee that most of the fights I go to live, when the time comes, are probably gonna be with Paisane. But at that time, unfortunately, the people around me were sleeping too, so it's not like anyone was like keeping me company or nothing. But at the end of the day,
your boy was keeping me very entertained in the meantime.
I know about the stories. Moving on. Actually, long-term, short-term, we don't know, but that's actually a very, very great time to pitch potentially the podcast that we are going to start. But for now, we're going to keep that aside. Getting back to the fights, I really, really like that both fighters are getting the opportunity to come back. I think Antonio Carlos Jr. is obviously going to have a huge advantage if the fight hits the ground. Brad Tavares has to beat the cardio. I think Antonio Carlos Jr. looks really good towards later rounds, especially for a bigger fighter. And when you've got a guy that's kind of fought at heavier weights and is able to cut down and kind of get to a healthy weight, when it comes to, almost 2-3 divisions, I think he's fought at different levels. So and he's a jiu-jitsu fighter. Like, these are things that he's very much used to, this is his lifestyle. So I just think that in that case, if his striking can keep up and he doesn't kind of take too many blows from Brad Tavares, who is going to be looking for that kind of shot, he has lost by knockout in his last fight, but we're talking about really good strikers. His last 2 fights are against a good boxer in Edmund Shabazian and, a very, very good MMA kickboxer in Israel Adesanya. So I think this is going to be a very tough fight to call when you think about the strengths and weaknesses and just how long these guys have been at the game.
Yeah, that's what my initial thought was as well when looking at this. Like, man, no line would surprise me here, and no outcome would surprise me either. So let's dive right into that line. What's your guess here?
I have to just give the edge to Antonio Carlos Jr. I think he just has a little bit more to his name. I think he has the edge in terms of just overall skill. I mean, I think Brad Tavares has that puncher's chance without question, because Antonio Carlos Jr. cannot even, he doesn't land even 2 strikes, per minute. Like, that's a pretty low number, 1.91 for the weight class and things like that. And he's got pretty good defense. So that's where I think he's going to be able to get some edge. And even with Brad Tavares' 77% takedown defense, I think Antonio Carlos Jr.'s style of grappling and takedowns might prove to be something, especially if he's able to kind of, get him against the fence, execute some takedowns in that way. That's where you don't want a guy like Antonio Carlos Jr. starting to get octopusy on you. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it's just getting a little too close for comfort. Brad Tavares needs to use some kicks, needs to keep him at bay. And I think if Brad Tavares waits for that right time to maybe land that right punch on a guy like Antonio Carlos Jr., who has spent some time away, who might be a little rusty, you never know what happens. So,
absolutely. So your final line here
is going to be Antonio Carlos Jr. at a minus. I can't do the minus. He can't be a minus 200 anymore. I think if it was a year ago, I would have given him the minus 200 line and higher, but I just can't do that right now. So I'm even on a Vegas level, I think he cannot be higher than a minus 200. So I'm going to give him minus 190. Antonio Carlos Jr.
All right. So Brad Tavares is actually the favorite here.
Okay. I can accept that.
He's a minus 155 favorite. And if I look at the live line, it is dropping. It's a minus 138. I would not be surprised if this was a pick'em right close to the fight.
I'm very much enjoying the juice on Antonio Carlos Jr., my man.
Absolutely. Yeah, in a coin flip battle, you're going to take the odds all day. He's a plus 110 right now. So, stay tuned for that one. But it looks like we might be sprinkling on Carlos Jr. here. All right, so up next, we got a couple of brown men's entering the octagon, which I'm super pumped for. So.
Jesus.
So, on one end, we got Arman Sakurian. Is that how you say it? Or Sarukian?
Sarukian, yeah.
His last name?
Arman Sarukian.
It sounds like Hadouken.
That's a great name.
Sure.
Great name.
So, he's rocking that 15-2 record, at 24 years old, man. This guy seems like an absolute specimen. He lost his debut back in 2019 to Islam Makhachev, and he's followed that up with back-to-back wins against Olivier Aubin-Mercier and Davi Ramos. So
Canadian, French-Canadian, baby.
I could only assume. So I had to give it a little bit of that French-Canadian flair. On the flip side, we have Fessy from the Challenge stepping into the ring. I'm just playing, man. He looks a lot like Fessy, but we got Nasrat Haqparasat out of Germany. He rocks that 12-3 record. He made his UFC back in 2017, and he's gone 4-2 since. Most recently, he knocked out he won by decision to Alex Munoz in August of 2020. So let's see if he can give Arman all he can handle here.
Well, like this is a fight that's actually a little interesting to call. It's going to be a very fun fight. Don't get it twisted. This might be one of the most fun fights on the card. That's really hard to say, right? With Chandler, Hooker,
with the
McGregor, Poirier coming in here, but it really will be in the top 3 or 4. It's because they're going to strike. These guys are not going to be going to the ground at all. I think Arman Tsarukyan actually has a pretty interesting looking ground game. But with Ramos, he really just kept it standing the whole time. We saw him land some pretty nice strikes, especially towards the end where he stunned him quite a bit, had him on his back foot, even dropped him. I think that we're going to see some of those punches come into play. It's going to be a striking battle. I think cardio is going to play a big factor if these guys don't get the job done early. I think that if these guys don't try to go to the ground at all, it's going to be a bit of a long, grueling striking battle, which everyone's going to assume. And why I keep emphasizing striking is when you look at their takedowns average per 15 minutes, we got 1.33 for Arman, and that's not. You think that's funny? We got 0.22 for Haqparasat.
Come on.
Yeah, you want the best
These
part?
guys are gonna throw.
Then the best part about that's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 UFC fights. In 7 UFC fights, Haqparasat has 0.22 takedowns. So that's
one. One.
And the big thing for me is like when you look at on the opposite end, it's only 3 fights, right? So I think that's where like you might even give him the edge in all around game, because in the tape that I've seen, especially international fights, he's actually shown some I guess what you would call like some prowl. We've seen him kind of set his takedowns up, use his strikes for those reasons, not just try to go for the knockouts and stuff like that. Someone definitely sent him the memo from Dana White and crew about, just going buck wild with the strikes, but I've definitely seen some interesting gameplay when it comes to the groundwork. So that also has me leaning a little bit more in the Tsarukyan direction.
These guys are going for bonuses, man, every time. Yeah, so let's dive right into the lines here in terms of favorite. Who do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, I have to lean Tsarukyan. I just think it's really hard not to. He's a big prospect in the UFC. When you look at his loss, Islam Makhachev, are you kidding me? That's a massive name in this sport. And so, at the end of the day, I'm going Arman Tsarukyan at. You know what? I was going to keep it low, but I got dummy on those last ones, so I'm going to go at a -300.
Ooh, let's give him that bell, boys. Let's give him that bell. He's right on the cusp of it. He's a -250 favorite, so at 300,
wow.
we're gonna give that to you. Yeah, we're gonna give that one to you.
I mean,
just glance at the updated line. It's still -250, so it looks like that one is staying packed right now.
So let's defend Haqparasat just a little bit, right? So we talk about how his ground game might be a little weak, but let's talk about how good his striking is, right? His only loss in recent time is to a guy by the name of Drew Dauber. Might have heard of him. He's, like an early knockout by Drew Dauber is only a life lesson, right? Like you're going to learn from that process as an MMA fighter. Other than that, he's been pretty solid when it comes to strike game. Mark Diakese, like that's a guy who came in with a lot of hype, but he's getting stopped pretty often here. And I think Haqparasat has shown that he can kind of strike in the UFC, but we'll see how much of that can really, shine through against a guy like, Arman Tsarukyan, who I think might have that all-around game. For me, it's the defense, right? We're talking about two guys who really strike well. Haqparasat is the best striker. He's actually the better striker by far. But I think we might see a guy who might mix it up a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these guys throw some bows and see where it lands. It must be another one that you say, just make your popcorn and just go chill and watch out.
It's funny because the more I think about it, the more I kind of check this fight out. I just think that this line's it's a little crazy. It's a little too far, but we'll see closer to the fight.
Yeah, in a fight that has, coined a puncher's chance, it can go either way. So stay tuned for that one. All right, and that moves us right into the main card here. I got to say, man, we got some exciting women's fights on this card. And to kick us off on the main card, we have a great women's strawweight bout. On one hand, we got Marina Rodriguez. On the other hand, we got Amanda Ribas. So really looking forward to this one. Both ladies have sparkling records and just unreal records. So Marina, on one hand, she comes in with a 12-1-2 record. Her first blemish on her actual record didn't come until July of last year when she lost in split decision to Carla Esparza. And prior to that, she had wins, against Tisha Torres, Jessica Aguilar, and, a couple draws against Randa Marcos and Cynthia Calvillo. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she brings to the table. On the flip side, we got Amanda Ribas, who has a 10-1 sparkling record. Her lone loss came back in 2015, I believe, to Poliana Viana. So, she's just been dealing with the case since then. Most recently, she submitted Paige Van Zandt back in the first round of UFC 251. Now, other notable wins include Mackenzie Dern, Randa Marcos, who we just mentioned. So, I'm pretty excited to see her get back in the ring here. What do you see between these two ladies?
Well, yeah, so, big thing for me, right? This is a huge little, fight for, I would say, the strawweight division. When you think about it, Marina Rodriguez is actually ranked pretty high. Right now, she's coming in already at number 8, and then you see Amanda Ribas right there at number 9, tied with Tisha Torres, who Rodriguez actually beat. So for me, I'm actually kind of doing a little bit of thinking here. When you look at Tisha Torres, she's only lost to absolute monsters: Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Weili Zhang, and Marina Rodriguez back in 2019 of August, right? Comes back 2-0 now. Nobody's talking about that, but Tisha Torres' comeback is very real. Now, when you look at Ribas, she was actually supposed to fight Michelle Watterson. So when you look at, who she was training for and what she's going to get, I think it's a pretty big step up. Now, you have to wonder, training camp, all that stuff. I do think that's something that's going to play a part. I just can't not feel that way. But what I love about this fight is the quality of fighters we're getting here. This is a huge fight in terms of just, who these people have fought, what they mean for the division. And I think Ribas is actually going to be someone that might surprise. She's going to be the smaller fighter. She's going to be looking for grappling opportunities. She's going to be looking for submissions. But if the striking holds up, this is really anybody's fight. And she has a really good chance here to make a big name for herself.
Yeah, I think you said it best, and for that strawweight division, this is a huge one for that number one contendership for sure. So I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people may think. But where do you see the Vegas odds landing for this one?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be using this opportunity to give a big shout out to a great fighter by the name of Carla Esparza. Why is nobody talking about her showing in the last 2 years? She's another 4-0 fighter who's now riding those ranks. Let's talk about Carla Esparza more. Moving on. Marina Rodriguez, I just can't, I can't really give her, I don't want to give her, I think this fight's really close, man. It's so tough because when you think about it, if this was full training camp, blah, 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 all that stuff, the writing's on the wall. We know she's the better striker, when I'm talking about Rodriguez. When you look at Ribas, her defense is actually pretty good on the feet. She only absorbs 1.67 strikes per minute, and actually 73% of strikes are actually avoided. So, I think that she might be able to absorb some of these and maybe even avoid some of these strikes and actually take this fight to the ground. 2.28 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's a big part of her game. And she's even got really great defense. So I think the striking's going to play a part. She likes to land. Both girls like to land. But, you got to give the grappling edge to Ribas. So I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas as the favorite here. But it's so tough to go with a high number. So I'm just going to go with a very simple number of -140.
Yeah, so this one might actually shock you again,
really?
But Ribas is a -320 favorite in this one. It is massive. And I think my live line shows -334 for this one.
Yeah, you know what, man? The reason why I'm not totally shocked is the edge is clear. I think we both agreed on the favorite there. And you know what? When you look at the numbers, she is the better MMA fighter. It's hard to ignore that. When you look at the tape, she's fought some pretty good fighters, and so is Marina. But there's time. MMA is always about what have you done for me lately, right? I think when you look at both fighters, they bring a lot to the table. But Ribas is just Whitmire, Mackenzie Dern, Randa Marcos, Paige Van Zandt. She's been a strawweight champion in the past. You know what I mean? This is her bread and butter. I just think that she's going to be able to give a really good fight here. Now, at that rate, I mean, you know what? Sprinkle, sprinkle, bye, sprinkle, sprinkle.
Seems like the sprinkle is going to be the way to go on this one. All right, and so the next fight up we got on the main card is a nice lightweight bout here between a couple of dudes who are trying to make a name for themselves. On one side, we got Ottman Azatar, and on the flip side, we got our boy here, Matt Frevola. So Ottman, you know, he rocks that clean 13-0 record, which includes 2-0 in the UFC after coming over from Brave. You know, his wins are against Timu Packalin and Kama Worthy. So I'm interested to see if Matt can, you know, provide some sort of blemish on this guy's record here. On the flip side, you know, we got Matt, who also has a great record, 8-1-1. His lone loss in, you know, his career came back in 2018 to Polo Reyes. He won his most recent bouts in 2019 against Luis Pena and Jalene Turner. So, you know, this looks like it could be another underrated fight on this card.
The big thing for me, it's like this weight class is just so hard to crack. You know what I mean? Like who's really just jumping the ranks at the lightweight, you know, class? It's just like it's just so hard. So for me, when I'm looking at these records, like they look great, but at the same time, it's like, you know, when the bottom two fighters are Gregor Giuseppe and Drew Dauber, like those are your bottom two ranked lightweights. I think when you compare those rankings to say the flyweights, there's a bit less discrepancy there, right? So for me, when I'm looking at Matt Frevola, it's the record's pretty, but when I'm digging a little deeper, I'm not a huge fan of the split decisions with Luis Pena. You know, the loss in just about a minute to, you know, our boy Polo Reyes. Like that's a 9-7 fighter in the UFC. You know, he dipped the scene a long time ago. So for me, I'm really liking what Ottman's bringing to the table, right? He's everything the UFC dreams of. He's going to try to just knock people into another dimension. That's all he's trying to do when he's in there, right? So for me, I think for Vola, if he's bringing, you know, a mixed up game, try to use that takedown, man. I think for me, it's going to be a tough fight to stand there and strike with this man. I think he's going to absolutely come hard and go hard. When you think about it, the man has never tried to even land a takedown. Like he only strikes. You know what? It's I want you to actually try to guess his strikes landed per minute in the UFC.
Given what you just said there, I'm gonna go with the high 3.
It's 8.43.
Oh man, that is insane.
Yeah, Ottman brings it at 13-0. You know, 2 minutes and 33 seconds of octagon fight time. That's his average fight time. You know, he's ending these fights in the first round. So, you know, it's not a huge, you know, reflection of, say, his entire career, because he's a huge Brave fighter. Like he made his name out there, came over to the UFC, 2-0. Again, like you said, 2 first-round knockouts. Is there someone that's been making a bigger name than him? I think we have to take him seriously. But when you look at the other side, Frevola, I'm sorry. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to, at least depending on this line, go either way, because I think if Frevola brings a good wrestling game, he has a chance to try and take him down. But again, Ottman has it there. 100% takedown defense, almost 9 strikes landed per minute, absorbs less than 2 strikes. Like, you know, we know what we're expecting here, guys.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, like you mentioned, let's dive right into those lines here. Where do you see this one landing?
Ottman minus 350.
Ooh, a tad high, which actually, you know, giving all the information you've given here, I do believe that the line should be a little bit bigger, but he's a minus 160 favorite.
To be honest with you, I just threw that number up based on everything I was saying, but I actually respect the line, because when I just said, like, if Frevola can actually mix this up and try and get a takedown, I do believe that he should have a pretty good advantage when it comes to the ground game.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there's a plus 130 on Frevola here, minus 160 on Ottman. You know, stay tuned for this one. Given everything you've said here, I really want to lean Ottman here, but let's check those weigh-ins and see where we land.
Yeah, for me, leaning Ottman, but also under. I think under's great, and I think Frevola, like we said, man, that line is definitely giving him respect on that grappling and that submission skills. So if he's able to exploit that, good on him. But you know, you have to start the fight standing, and I think this is going to be a very difficult fight.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so leading up into the co-main events, we have a nice one more women's great bout coming up. We have two top 10 ranked fighters in the flyweight division here. We got Jessica Ai on one end and Joanne Calderwood on the other. So let's start with Jessica Ai. She seems to be giving some solid cut eye in her Tapology picture, so goes right in the name with her last name. But she's lost 2 of her last 3, and she's looking to get back on track. But if you do look at those 2 losses, man, they're against some elite competition. We got Valentina Shevchenko and Cynthia Calvillo, so she's going to be looking to get back on track here. On the flip side, we got the Bad Mofo. That's a dope nickname for sure. So we got the Bad Mofo in Calderwood. She comes in with that 14-5 record. She's also lost 2 of her last 3 to Jennifer Maia and Katlyn Chikagan. So, elite fighters as well. She has some solid wins under her belt too, including Andrea Lee. So this one's going to be a really tough one to call, man. I think both women have a lot to prove here.
Yeah, so the big thing with Joanne Calderwood, the big story with her was when she took that fight with Jennifer Maia, right? She was actually supposed to fight Valentina Shevchenko, and she could have actually waited out for a title shot. But instead, she was like, she'll take all the practice she can get, and she ended up getting finished in the first round via armbar. We actually bet on Joanna Calderwood that fight. I don't know if you remember, but Maia ended up getting the title shot against Valentina Shevchenko, and we saw how that line went in the minus 1,000 range. So I mean, Jessica Ai, the one thing I like about her is she's also been active, right? Like in terms of Cynthia Calvillo, you mentioned, that's a really good fight to base, I guess, a little bit of her history on. I think when you look at what Joanne Calderwood was on pace to do before she kind of hit that brick wall with Maia, it's a little interesting. I think she kind of lost an opportunity there, but she's young. She should be able to kind of regain that back. When you look at the striking, she is going to be the better striker, right? Landing almost, 6 strikes per minute. I love that. When you got Jessica Ai coming in at 3.5 and really trying to just try to mix it up. The takedowns are not much there for either or. I actually think Joanne Calderwood might be a pretty good grappler, but we saw in that fight, like, that is obviously something she's trying to work on. Do you know what I mean? Especially the defense when it comes to deep submissions, things like that. Like that was a tough go. And I know that must have been a heartbreaking loss for her. But for me, I really do like Joanna Calderwood to kind of just make a comeback in this one in a big way.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be a tight one for sure. Where do you see the odds landing for this one?
Yeah, so I mean, if the fight goes deep, I think Jessica Ai can keep it competitive. I think that's her game most of the time. She loses, either close decisions or she just gets finished, right? So with Joanna Calderwood, like we said, she was on the verge of a title shot. But when you look at who she's lost to, her only 4 losses: Jennifer Maia, Jessica Andrade, Cynthia Calvillo, Katlyn Chikagan. Those are all top tier MMA, UFC women's fighters. Those are all very high class. So for me, when I'm looking at lines, I have to go draw on the Calderwood when it comes to that comeback. I'm going to take that kid striking, and I'm going to say a minus. Jessica, you ain't got it, man. I'm going to say minus 175 for Joanna Calderwood.
He hits the 50-point range.
These are tough fights, man. This card, that card, this fight, they've all been tough, man. Because, that's why I'm not even getting surprised by some of these lines, because they really concede, even in the shock factor you tell me. It's kind of crazy, man. Yeah, for sure, bro.
For sure. So Calderwood's actually a minus 125 favorite on this one. So it's pretty much as close to a pick'em as you can get.
Yeah, and what's funny, man, is a lot of these fights I kind of just feel like throwing the pick'em card, but I also don't want to make it look like I'm lazy. So a big part of me is really trying to hash out what can separate them. And I feel like for some of them, we've done a fairly good job, but obviously for others, when I threw out that minus 300 line, obviously should have just put a little bit more time in that one. I do apologize, but that's probably my most funniest / way off one ever. So throw me a freaking bone here.
All right, and so that leads us into the co-main event. We got a couple beauty fights left in the lightweight division. Very pumped for them, so let's dive into that first one. So yeah, Dan Hooker, we know a lot about this guy. He rocks that 20-9 record. He's 10-5 in the UFC. He's seen them all. So he's coming off that loss to Dustin Poirier, who we're going to see in the main event. That was back in June, I believe. And prior to that, he beat Paul Felder in February, which is also another great fight. So, Dan Hooker's no joke here. And on the flip side, we have Michael Chandler making his UFC debut. This guy's been around the game for a long time, at least 10 plus years in Bellator, but never ventured over his way to the UFC here. So he's going to be making his UFC debut. Obviously going to look to show off his skills this Saturday there. He's won 2 in a row against Sidney Outlaw and Benson Hernandez. So I'm curious to see what he can actually do to Dan Hooker here. How do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, so Michael Chandler's going to have the edge in grappling, and Dan Hooker's going to be the better striker. He's going to have the length. He's going to have the reach. He's going to have all of that in his favor. Michael Chandler needs to take this fight to the ground. Michael Chandler needs to make Dan Hooker work for every single punch that he lands. Because the thing about Michael Chandler that made him so popular is he's just such a great athlete, right? He's a phenomenal athlete. The guy made weight just in case Gaethje or Khabib fell out of that fight. Like, the guy's a primo athlete. The guy's top tier MMA class. We saw him fight Benson Henderson last August, and that's a fight where I actually really got to see at least what he's done to his game, since the Pitbull loss and even the Sidney Outlaw win. Like, these are all fights where you kind of see him really, I guess, come back into his own, because the Benson Henderson fight was really just a mauling. I think that was one of the easier bets ever, to be quite honest. And to be, when you look at Benson Henderson, you keep thinking the fight's going to go the distance. And frankly, that fight ended in the first round. So for me, that was just a huge showing from Michael Chandler. But at the same time, he's not fighting. Like, if you have to ask me, is Benson Henderson a ranked lightweight in the UFC? Absolutely not. He did a phenomenal job as champion. He did what he had to do in what is probably the most competitive division of all time, maybe, because they seem to stand, the tide every single era. Just phenomenal fights just coming out of there every single time. Because when you look at even Dan Hooker's record, right, the only man to ever truly knock him out is Edson Barbosa in the 3rd round. Like, that's massive. Like, these are just all beasts trying to fight for the same thing. It's like watching a video game. It's insane. It's Mortal Kombat in real life. Like, that's how good. Like, even when you think back to the Paul Felder Dan Hooker fight. Like, that was a split decision win. Like, when you really think about some of the guys that Paul Felder's mixed it up with, and in the striking department, like, he's elite in his own right. And so when you look at it, like, anyone with a weak chin definitely doesn't have a good showing when it comes to Dan Hooker. And that's where I think, if he's able to execute the striking the way he wants, he has a chance to finish this fight. What's not in Dan Hooker's favor is maybe the 5-round fight. But when you look at what he did with Dustin Poirier, I mean, that was my favorite fight of last year. That was my fight of the year award, bar none. I definitely shed a couple tears towards the end of that. It was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it's everything you hope for when you want a competitive fight. That's what two guys step in there for. Literally, that's what they work hard for. The opportunity for 5 rounds to at least try and win. And both guys did enough to try and win for all 5 rounds. So I'm not stopping that fight. Going back to my previous argument, So that's what makes a good fight to me. Like, that was a good fight. Like, that was the sweet science, if you will. Like, that's symphony. And for me, I think Dan Hooker might get the edge here, but it can't be by much. It just can't. But the striking department is for real.
Yes, give me the number that you think.
Well, right now when I'm looking at Michael, I mean, the only thing I can give him is the true edge and grappling, and it's hard to, because he's not a bad striker, bro. He's just not a bad striker, and it's really hard to just give Hooker the edge, because who knows? A quick little strike from Chandler could put him out. I don't think he knocked him out, but I like overs in this fight, and I'm going to go Dan Hooker minus 145.
Oh, let's give this man another bell, another well-deserved bell, like that last minus 135, minus 138 one. So Dan Hooker is actually a minus 140 favorite.
Wow. Okay. So that kind of lines up, right? Like, these guys are very evenly matched. I think Dan Hooker might be taken down, but I think he can do what it takes on the ground. This is the kind of guy that can throw an elbow from the bottom and probably cut you bigger than he could on the feet. That's the kind of guy you're getting, Wow. And I think that's where, like, people don't understand. That's actually a lie. People do understand. If you paid attention to that Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier fight, you understand the warriors that you're getting in these next 2 fights. This is going to be an absolute pleasure to watch. And I'm very, very happy that these are the guys that get to share the card with a guy like Conor, because they're the ones that deserve to get that kind of bump.
Very well said. Very well said, for sure. So we're definitely looking forward to that co-main event. Stay tuned. If we have a lean here, anything less than -150, I'm down to take it straight up. So if we do end up taking Hooker, I'll probably be taking that straight up, and we'll let you guys know where we land.
Pies loves his straight up hookers.
Oh, why?
I don't even know. It's just.
And now, the long-awaited main event. By the way, did you see that fly on Bruce Buffer's face on Saturday?
No.
Oh, I'm gonna have to send you that one. I'm pretty sure he posted it. But as he was announcing a fight, a fly was on his face, and he had to just be smacking it.
What a guy, yeah.
Pretty entertaining. What a guy. But yeah, main event here, man. Everybody knows about this one. It's Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, round 2. Really pumped for this one. We actually touched on this exact fight in our UFC betting videos. So if you haven't checked those out, we break down exactly how to bet on a UFC fight. This is a great example because early on, all the lines were out, method of victory, round betting, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't seen it, check out our UFC betting videos there. But yeah, touching on this fight, man, these two, they met in 2014. Conor had a first round knockout here, but this is a different version of both of these gentlemen here. So, this should be a great fight. Conor, he last fought in January of 2020. He beat our boy Cowboy Cerrone. I'm pretty sure that was with those shoulder shimmy shakes, right?
Yeah.
I had never seen that before in my life, but that was pretty cool. So he knocked him out pretty early with those. And prior to that, we're very familiar with those losses to Khabib and to the GOAT in Floyd Mayweather. So, Conor's getting back into the ring here now. Dustin Poirier, he's been rolling. He's won 6 of his last 7. His lone loss again is to Khabib. So, no slouch here either. And his wins, they include Dan Hooker, who we're going to see on the co-main event, Max Holloway, who we just saw beasted up last Saturday, Justin Gaethje, who actually got the title fight against Khabib. So, a lot of credibility under these names as well. What a fight this is going to be, man.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hyped it as best as you could. I think it's everything you want it to be, right? It's the perfect rematch. Conor is obviously giving the right guy the rematch. He loves Dustin Poirier for all the right reasons. Great charities on both ends. There's a lot of good things coming out of this fight, and I think it also shows a little bit of the maturity that Conor's gained over time. But the big thing for me is I really like the idea that Dustin Poirier is going to get a chance to avenge that loss. Not only make good paper on a Conor main event, but he's going to get a great chance to really prove that, not only is he a better fighter from the first time, but all the stuff that people are saying about the belt and all that stuff, that's not true. He earned that shit. I think he earned that shit. And frankly, when people can't fight or if the UFC is choosing to take belts away and all that kind of stuff, that's not up to the fighter. You know what I mean? The fighter just does his job. That's part of the game. And so right now you're seeing pretty much the culmination of the most popular fighter potentially of all time and the guy that just kind of seems to work the hardest and has earned the chance to fight the guy. You know what I mean? That's kind of this is a title in itself, if you will. That's the beautiful thing about it. This seems like a mini title. And, I'm happy for Dan Hooker to be in the co-main event to get some exposure being on this card. That's how great this card is in terms of exposure and fireworks. That's what it's going to be. When you look at the numbers, these guys are fairly even, size-wise, takedown defense. I like to see that Conor is all, in the 70s. He's the real deal when it comes to just want to keeping the fight on the feet. He's got that wide stance. Both guys are southpaws, those powerful lefts. And I think
footwork is insane.
Yeah, he's on another level, and it's funny because both these guys are phenomenal boxers. And I'm just going to totally stand up and show off what is potentially this is my wife's least favorite shirt that I own. I constantly find it in the piles that need to go to Goodwill and the Salvation Army, but I keep finding it and pulling them out. But here it is, baby. You know what I mean? Happy birthday to my guy all week. This is a week celebration for me. I love it. Get to wear it for something now. So, yeah, I think this is what we're going to see, right? It's going to be a showcase of phenomenal boxing. I think both these guys are going to choose to potentially keep the fight standing. I think in Poirier's case, it comes down to exciting fight versus, wanting to mix it up. I think that if you get tired or dizzy or knocked or just a little winded based on some of the strikes that Conor can throw, it's what he does to people. He's a freaking magician in there. It is what it is, We've seen him do it to a lot of guys. I think Chad Mendes on a full camp might have actually given him, for some reason, the toughest bout of his life. I think that was the fight where we kind of saw Conor tested the most. And I just, that's the fight that I always think back. Like, but you look at the record, like, you can't even discount the man. If you're a Conor hater, I mean, at the end of the day, you might be a fan of some of these guys, but since he entered the UFC right in the beginning, Marcus Brimage, nobody ever forgets that fight. If you're a fan a minute in, like, the guy, he just calls it all. Then he just goes, Max Holloway, and then the run starts, right? Brandao, Poirier, Dennis Seaver. That was the one where people question, like, how are you going to go from Poirier to Seaver, you know, then an out-of-shape Chad Mendes, to, you know, to get a chance for the title, and then boom. We know what happened in less than 15 seconds on December 12th, 2015 at UFC 194. A lot of us were sad, but things change, and you have to move on with the times. And we did. And here we are. So, you know, I like Dustin Poirier from the recency bias, but again, I think Conor just, he knows the game. He knows fighters. When you listen to Conor talk about fighting, he loves it like you know what I mean? He loves it like I listen to him and I learn and I learn and I learn. And that's what made me like him more and more. I'm going to be honest. Everyone falls in love with the character and all that kind of stuff. But when you listen to this man talk about fights, like, the guy knows the game. And to be honest, I think he knows Dustin Poirier. And we talked about the line. We already know what the line is, right? We know it's in the high 200s. And we know why that exists. It doesn't have to do with all the fame and everything. It has to do with the fact that A, he beat him already, and B, we might be looking at potentially one of the best strikers of all time in the UFC.
Yeah, he's legit, man. He is legit for all the, you know, hoopla and extracurriculars he provides, man. He brings the game, and you got to give him credit for that. So, you know, we've dove into the lines. We know he sits at a minus 275. Are you leaning either way on this one, man? I know this is a real tough one to call.
Yeah, so it's funny, right? Like, I kind of, just because of juice, and you know a part of that Conor line is because of public play. You 100% know that. So, yeah, I am going to be sprinkling on Dustin Poirier. It's not that I dislike Conor McGregor, but I will be taking the under in this fight heavily, and I will be sprinkling on Dustin Poirier to win this fight. That is for sure.
Okay. Maybe a little sprinkle on a Poirier finish?
Yeah, maybe. You know, I see myself doing that most likely. That's gonna get done. That's gonna get done.
My man. Yo, sounds good. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. It sounds like we might be sprinkling on the dog here.
Might just have to sprinkle on both guys. Like, I can't lie.
Happy regardless.
Yeah,
a little juice to be happy.
Like, let's be real. Like, last week, same thing, right? Sprinkle on that Conor first round all of a sudden, randomly. Remember, I told you, devil entered my soul, and I was like, let me play one line. That plus 1,200 randomly saved my night.
Amazing. So that was an absolute treat. That wraps up UFC 257. Enjoy the card this weekend, guys. It's going to be a real treat. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe, hit that bell button. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter. All our information is below. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. Anything else you want to touch on, Siraj?
Happy birthday to the GOAT. Peace.
Later, guys.